A young horse on the meadow. What can we say about a young horse on the meadow? How is this? What can we say when the young horse is cantering over the meadow? 2- to 3-year-old horse.
Natural what?
Yeah, natural movement. And this natural movement is balanced. So the first time the horse is getting a little bit unbalanced is when we start to ride the horse. We put a saddle on it, and this is the first time when the horse is not going straight anymore, but it starts to walk like a camel. But this is not because the horse has changed his opinion. This is simply because somebody is sitting on the horse, and the horse has to learn to carry the weight. The next time when we unbalance the horse is when we start to jump the horse. Because we have a different movement when we are going to jump the horse. We have the approach, we have the takeoff, we have the bascule, we have the landing, and we have the phase of going ahead. These are the 5 moments of movement which we don't have when we are riding the horse just flat. Because there is no approach, there is no takeoff, no bascule, no landing, and no phase of going ahead. And we can see this is a typical jump from a young horse. A nice little jump, but the horse is very excited, and we can see this kind of jumps with many of our young horses when we start to jump them, and when they come to a show for the first time and they see something which is new for them. When we have a little bit more experienced horse, then maybe they look like this one. This is already a 6-year-old horse. Could be with this forehand technique, could be also nice hunter. The question what we have is, what are young horses? We have 4-year-old horses, 5-year-old horses, 6-year-old horses, 7-year-old horses, 8-year-old horses. We all call them young horses or youngsters. We have I would say the 4-, 5-, 6-year-old horses are definitely in the group of the young horses. The 7- and 8-year-old horses, we have them in the youngster category. But their needs are completely different. A 4-year-old horse has a completely different needs compared to a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old as well. And when we see the 7- and 8-year-old horses, which are already on the way to become Grand Prix horses, we have different horses for that. First of all, when we talk about these 4-year-old horses, they have to learn that they go to the fence. Often, I see this from time to time, the young horse classes are too difficult. Less is more. That means, especially when you are building now in the wintertime in an indoor, don't put in too many things for them. They should easily go around. They should easily have a good approach to the obstacles. And even if you jump, because you have a small arena or a smaller arena, jump twice, maybe from the other side or twice from the same side. These are all options which you should use. Young horses, when they go to a show, what do we want? We want a kind of training with them. We want to show it to them. We want to learn them. This is maybe the future for our good riders, to have this young horse in order to ride this horse this year in the young horse class, maybe next year 1m20 m, and then the year after maybe it starts with a 1m30 m, and at the end of the year he's doing also maybe a little bit bigger. So we want to educate the horse. The young horse classes are there to introduce things to them. Obstacles which they have maybe not seen before, but in a nice way. Maybe we also want to prepare them for a championship. We also have young horse championships. I don't know if you have this here in Finland as well, but I think yes. We also have the World Championships for young horses in Nuorten. We have in Germany, we have the so-called Bundeschampionat, where all the young horses come together once a year in order to show the best young horses. And this is a very, very interesting show. I can only recommend, if you once have time and the chance to go in order to see it, is always in the first weekend in September, to go to the Bundeschampionat. There are over 1,000 young horses, I think about 1,400 young horses, competing in all disciplines. And it's very nice to see that, and there you can already see some horses which you will see in the following years in the international sport. And you can see it right from the beginning. We want that the horses get mileage. Mileage means at the end experience. Especially when the horses are coming to these shows which we have on the tours. There we can build up these horses perfectly. Because we have enough time to start very low and little in a nice way, and week by week we can increase a little bit. The feedback I got from the riders was horses are tired when they are coming from one of these tours, but they have learned a lot. And if they give them a rest for 2 weeks, and after that they are coming back with another strength and with another mentality. Often you see these horses who have been on the Sunshine Tour in February or in Oliva Nova in February. When they start here at the outside season, they are ready. They are going. And the other ones, they still have a 3m20 m canter from the inside, coming from the indoor. Yeah? They are cantering around the corner like this, and the other ones, they really have a big canter. A long canter stride. So, horses maybe qualifying over a tour, or we simply want to build up these horses for further tasks. We simply want to school these horses. We have testing classes, and we have education classes. Young horse classes are definitely education classes. There is nothing with testing classes. This is something which we should just burn into our brains, and if we have riders who are dumb enough to rush the horses through the young horse classes, they can do what they want, but they will not be successful. The course designer is a part of the education system in this way. And it's not our task to show them their gaps and what they not can. We have to close these gaps. We have to build them up carefully. That doesn't mean that we always have to protect them from everything. They should make a fault, yes. They should be introduced to new obstacles. Yes, in a nice way. They should go out like this from our courses. If they go out like that, maybe the riding was wrong or the course. If we have a result like this, in young horse classes, where we have, let's say, 50% clear, in the beginning of the year, not at a championship, but in the beginning of the year, this is absolutely fine for me. This would not be a result which I want to have in a Grand Prix, for sure. But for the young horse class, this is a result which is 100% accepted. But we have also to take influence to the show organizer, because we have possibilities to, in combination, the course designer and the show organizer, or who is doing the schedule, to fix these things. So, I don't know if you have this here, we have young horses competitions on style. Sometimes it's a bit tricky, because you also need good judges for that, who can judge it. And then it is a little bit, sometimes like in dressage, then they said, they don't like my horse so much. Well, normally it's always somebody else. Yeah? Normally it's a bad course, it's a bad ground, it's a bad judge, a bad course designer, but it's never the rider. We have two phases classes in two phases, which are good for young horses. Think about it, in order to get mileage. Sometimes you see the first 3 jumps the horse is doing is really, really shit. But then, after jump number 4, the horse comes more into a rhythm, has more confidence, and thus the end of the round is nice. So, that means if they can go into a 2 phases special, oops, sorry, a bit too quick. In a 2 phases special, this would be a good chance. Does everybody know what I mean with a 2 phases special? The 2 phases special is in a new invented rule in the rule book. It is 274.5.6 in the rule book, and this shows that all the horses continue to the second phase, regardless if they have a time or a jumping fault. That means these horses are making 13 jumps. So they get a little bit routine. A competition with a jump-off is also possible. Competition with American jump-off, yes. A table A without time. This is what we have down there in 238.1.1. Let's say all the clears are winners. The riders like it very much because they can phone home to their sponsor and say, I was clear. They don't tell them that there were another 25 also the winner. But this doesn't matter. At the end, we don't give so much pressure to these horses, and they can just do a round. And I think this is not a bad thing.
What's the American jump-off?
American jump-off is immediately jump-off. Then we have, of course, competition with fault and time. And with fault and time we have to be careful, because the moment we give them the chance to rush the horses, they rush the horses. The not so smart ones are going to rush the horses. So we can fix it already a little bit when we do the schedules. The number of obstacles to be jumped indoor and outdoor at, let's say, these international events or even on national events should be 10 in the minimum to 14 in the maximum. I think if you offer the riders 9 jumps, they will find it a little bit poor. Yeah? They will think, why I'm here with the horse. I brought my horse now so many kilometers in order to jump here on this event, and now I have 9 jumps to jump. Better I leave the horse at home.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
What about national events?
Also
The same.
same. Yeah. Except 8. Yeah. It can be 8 for, let's say, if you have the 4-year-old horses. Yeah. But the 5-6-year-old horses are doing 10. So even if you are on a small ring, on a small arena, yeah. So after 8 jumps, you say, number 1 was okay, but not so much in rhythm. Then comes jump number 2. So after number 3, the horse has a flow, and then number 8, and it's finished already. So it would be nice if you could do maybe on a long line another 1 or 2 fences more. Yeah? We also had in the past 8 fences was very common in Germany, I have to say. We are away with these things because we discussed it with the riders, and the riders said, simply look at our horses. When they have a chance to get a little bit more experience and mileage, we have simply a better result. So I think try to come up a little bit with the number of obstacles. Because the riders are coming to school their horses. Different age of horses means they have different needs. 4-year-old horses. This is what we have in the German and as well as in the Dutch NF. Up to 1 meter 5, 1 meter 25 in the width. This is a lot, I have to say. And this is the maximum at the end of the year. So this is not what we are starting with. We are starting maybe with 95 centimeters in the beginning. And we have to see the progress of the horses over the year. We have to see when they are coming out, when they are out for a while, and when they finish. So it's not only building the same and the same and the same over the year. So we always have to consider the time of the year. Otherwise, we start too high. We can have little pools with poles, and all the competitions are on style. So they cannot go against the clock. And as far as I know, the Dutch NF has also a limitation on the fact how many times a horse can compete during the year on a show. So the 5-year-old horses can go on style, 1 meter 5, 1 meter 10, they can qualify for national championships. They can also go already to international shows where you have young horse classes. They can also go to standard competitions on these international shows. That means not on style, so they are going in 2 phases in against the clock classes or in classes with jumpers. We have open water with poles optional. The 6-year-old horses are doing 1 meter 20, 1 meter 30. And I have to say, when we are going on these tours, and I'm doing one of the tours, I did the Sunshine Tour for 5 years. I was in Oliva and now doing, I think in the 6th year, the show in Magna Racino. We can see what kind of progress the horses are doing. And when we start on the first week, maybe with the 6-year-old horses with 1 meter 15, for sure at the end of this show, we are at 1 meter 30. Because we build them up every week, step by step, slowly, in a fair way, and this is what these horses need. standard competitions. Let's go. 7, 8-year-old horses, youngster classes, 135, 140. Open water with or without poles. And it's already a preparation for further competitions. That means for competitions on international level, because a 7-year-old horse, maybe you'll find next year in the Olympics, because with 8-year-old, they can go to the Olympics. If I plan, it doesn't matter which competition it is. I do it mostly in the same way, because if I'm not planning a competition, a longer term competition, then I'm getting lost. And this, what I'm always asking for, variety, I cannot provide.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I would just like to get your comment on the fact that we have actually young horses classes, which is fine, but we have same course design for 5, 6, and 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
Only the height of the fence differs. So what's your comment on that?
Well, if you have time, I think the needs are different. And if a 5-year-old horse and a 7-year-old horse, you can see it even from the height, is something what is completely different. We have, if we have a 5-year-old horse, we have a young horse. If we have a 7-year-old horse, we have a youngster. But if we would reduce it only to the height, it would be wrong. So that means we should have also a different questions in the course. So we should, if the timetable allows it, if we have the 5 and 6-year-old together, okay. If we have the 7 and 8-year together, fine. But if we have the 5 and the 7-year in one class, that's too much for me. So maybe you could think about it in order to rearrange it. But sometimes it's a question of time on the shows, yes. But I have to say, then you also have to have a smart course designer who has already planned for the 7-year-old, and then is going back to the 5-year-old, takes maybe 2 fences out and makes the combination a bit easier, so that you have a smoother and nicer distances to go, and then it's a question of 5 minutes to build it. So it should not be a problem at all. Yeah?
Following Päivi's question is that, is there, in your opinion, a big difference in the type of fences, ground lines, or square boxers, or a little bit easier?
Yes, this is
and then lines and turns?
Yes, lines and turns. Lines and turns, the type of combinations, it's the, let's say, the rampy oxer or the square oxers. 8-year-old horse, 7-year-old horse, they are jumping the oxers square. Yeah? A 5-year-old horse is going to jump the oxers rampy. So these are other things which you have to consider. For example, here I have the 5, 6, 7-year-old horses. This is on the Magna Racino show. And I, for myself, just make a simple tablet in order to see what I'm going to do, so that I know exactly what I have offered to them, the 5 years old. The green one is the first, the second, the third week. And so I know exactly what I'm offering them. So in the first week I offer them a double vertical on 2 strides. In the second week I offer them a double vertical on 2 strides on the first day. This is always the first day. Yeah? First day, second day, third day. These are the days where they are being worked. So, do they have ground poles? This was your question, John. Yes, they have ground poles. Yeah? I would like to give them a chance to have a better approach. Do they have POT, is a plank on top? Do they have a triple bar? Do they have a fan? Do they have a Liverpool? These horses. And I say, yes, they have the 5-year-old horses in the first week of the show. They have a Liverpool with the vertical AF after finish. So that means the horses are jumping, they are round, they are making their 10 jumps in the direction of the axle. And then the rider can decide if they want to jump over the small vertical, this height. Yeah, it's completely built, the speculations, everything is flat. And I go before to the judges and tell them, this is an extra obstacle. The riders can jump it. And I would say 95% of the riders are taking this little vertical on the way out. It's simply a nice exercise in order to get the horses used to it in a nice way. And then we can see Liverpool in the second group. Yes, it's in. It's not anymore in. So they have done here, yes, after finish line. The second day, yes, after finish line. And on the third day, on the last day of the first week, they jump it, yes, but it's in the track. And then in the second week, for 5 years, are jumping the Liverpool, yes. Yes, 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 it's always in, somewhere else. So the vertical, the oxer, maybe at the side, but the vertical, the Liverpool is in. The same is, okay, the plank on top, I don't need it for the 5 years old in the first week, but I have it, for example, here for the 7 years old in the second week. So every year I change it a little bit, I adapt it, and but if I have not a template like this, I will be completely lost, because after the first week you cannot remember what you have built on the first day for the 6-year-old horses. Was it also vertical or vertical oxer? One strap or two strap? It's gone, because you are building all together a show like this has more than 100 or 110 classes, and of course you cannot remember what you have built. You will also not remember who has one class. And sometimes we are building in different arenas, so then you have absolutely no chance if you don't have a little bit of a plan. It's very helpful. I would recommend for the course designers to do it, because when you have it, when you can do it, you also get variety. Yeah, and you are not coming back always to the same and the same and the same. When you ask a course designer, what will be, who is a course designer? No, you. Only one? Some more. Johanna. What is a good combination for the Grand Prix? Yeah, couple of for combination. Vertical oxer.
Vertical.
Okay. So, well, oxer, vertical oxer. If you would all be course designers, and I give this question to you, I would say oxer, vertical oxer, I get this answer 75%. Yeah? So the typical idea the course designer is for the Grand Prix, oxer, vertical oxer must be the combination for the Grand Prix. But we have so many different combinations available. We have first to sort out for the young horses which of the combinations are suitable. Because Johanna says, Schuttelbau vertical oxer, this is definitely not a combination. It's a nice combination, but it's definitely not a combination for young horses. So, this is when we have a look here. We have maybe here oxer vertical vertical, vertical oxer vertical. Then we have No. So not all the combinations are suitable for these horses. So we have to think about what is a suitable combination. That means when they jump in, how to get them out. The worst thing is, as a rider, when a horse stops in a combination. Because in order to get this confidence back to the horse is so difficult, and sometimes it will never return. So we have to be careful when we are building for young horses combinations. I think we have about 40 different types of triple combinations, but when we build one, I think at least half of them are not possible to build it for young horses. So always think about who are your clients. So even if this young horse classes is written by Ludger Beerbau and Wolf-Göran Bengtsson and. Because they have their youngsters with them. They have their young horses with them. And there, the combination triple bar oxer vertical is the pillar. And they will tell it to you. And it's very simple to avoid this. But we need variety. Even if we have small things which we change for these horses. Even if you put a plank somewhere else or a gate somewhere else, yeah, that's a simple oxer. So it always shows a little bit different. And we have to make sure that we have balance. Balance is for me one of the most important things in riding. So we must have balance when we come to an obstacle, and we must have the time to rebalance the horse when we are going ahead. No tasks by distances, but by dimensions. That means when we are building for these category of horses, we give them the height in a nice way. Maybe doing ramping oxen. So the ramping oxen is 1 meter high, or 1 meter 25, or whatever. We give them the height, but we have the pole in front. But we don't start with distances in between. This is another thing. If I start with, let's say, in the outside, I start with an in-between distance. So if I go with my preliminary idea is 20 meters, 23 meters and a half. How can I get rhythm? How can I get balance? Because I'm asking such a big question, which is absolutely for the top riders with their top horses, and not the top riders with their young horses. So do me a favor, when you are a judge, when you are a course designer, take care that you are going to have clear distances. 5 strides, 6 strides, 7 strides. When we are outside, we have probably the possibility. Sometimes when we are inside, it will be also 4 strides or 3 strides. But even then, do it in a nice and proper way. Indoor, when we talk about indoor, leave gaps between these fences. If necessary, then you use to jump twice. I mean, when you are jumping into a gap, and you have a younger horse, you have to jump over it, and then suddenly there, you can see already the fence, and then you get only from here to here, a very small gap where you have to get through. Then you cannot ask the horse for a good performance, because the horse is already a little bit resisting to go there, looking, and also looking maybe where is the gap, So we need also big gaps. Often this is totally forgotten. Sometimes, I have to say, it's also difficult to build in the indoors, but then we have to be even using our brain and trying to find a line which allows that we have these ways open. No tasking combinations. The combination is already a big question which we ask for young horses. But if we start in combinations then to play with the distances, this has nothing to do with education. This has only to do with testing classes. If I have the good riders with their good horses, I can start to test them. But if I have not these riders, if I have the young horses, no distances in combinations which are, again, demanding. Combinations must be inviting, with a good approach, not as a second element in the line. That means, what does it mean, not as a second element in the line? If I have a combination here, and I have one before, yeah? So I have a one jump here, and then I have a combination here. So this is, for them, often very difficult, especially in the beginning. If we have it, a combination, and we have one after, this is much more easy for them. Because on the way, in this line, you have to keep the horses in rhythm, balanced, straight. You must come in a good distance to this fence, so you have already 5 tasks before you reach the combination, and then you have to jump the combination. So please do it first in the other way. You jump the combination, you put one behind. I'm talking now about 5, 6-year-old horses, 4, 5, 6-year-old horses in the beginning. Later on in the year, you can maybe do it from the other side. You have one before. And many things which I'm saying now are also valid when I have young girls and more unexperienced riders. These things here, I had a long talk with Michel Robert, and so he also gave me some advices and some ideas about what he wanted to transport for the education of young horses. When we ride, when we start to ride, we can gallop with a young horse on a 20-meter circle. It's difficult in the beginning, but over the coming weeks, it works. Sometimes it's going over the shoulder, but we can do it. But if we are going into a vault, this requires much more from the horse and the rider in their abilities than just to canter on a certain line. And if we have the 1 meter turn, which is in dressage in the Grand Prix, it is what? The pirouette. Yeah. So we have to close the horse even more. Yeah. And we know this is a pirouette. Here we are in another level. And here we have these circle lines, these 20-meter circle lines, which we need. And normally, if we work with this line, with these 20-meter line in our in the way to the obstacle, in the turn, then normally we have a smooth line. because this is something what we know from our daily work. The approach to an obstacle must be sufficient. An ideal approach is 3 or more strides before the obstacle, to have the horse straight before the obstacle and 3 strides. The approach is always depending on the size of the arena and the rail or the board. How does it look like? Remember our 20-meter circle. This is where we are cantering around here. But we are not cantering around exactly at the rail, we are a little bit more inside, so therefore we give them here 1 meter. Now when you are riding outside, you are not riding always along the hedges or along the rail. So then a quarter of it, that means this is 10 meters. Then we add the 3 strides with 3.70 meters each, plus a take-off distance of 1.90 meters for a vertical. So that means we have a total distance of 24 meters from the corner to the position where we have the obstacle. So this is something what we have to always to take, well, to remind us. We always say, it's very simple. When we have a horse must be straight in order to jump. If it is bended like this, the hind legs here, the front legs here, what happens? It's the same if I try to jump like this in the air. It's like this. But if I have my hind legs under the body, I can jump easily, much higher. And this is the same if my horse is not straight in front of the obstacle, or if it comes straight to the obstacle. So if we have a turn like this, and we say out of a turn like that, the young horse should be around 24 meters. We know by experience, from the indoors, we are sometimes much more into the corner. We are also coming out with 18. In the top level, we are also coming out less with that. But then it also gets critical with the top riders, especially if we have here an obstacle. And remember what I said before? An obstacle with no approach, the riders will not be very happy. So if we have the space, out of a normal turn, we are coming with 24 meters.
Excuse me,
Please.
one question. You mentioned earlier that these kind of course design principles should be applied also to unexperienced riders. So the previous slide which you showed, that should be also when the course design for unexperienced riders should be taken in consideration.
Yes. Because it's often very difficult for them to get their horses straight. So if we have a turn, or if our turn is even more, then we simply add the stride out of our 20-meter turn. And if we have a turn with 270 degrees or more, which we also have quite often in our shows, then we add another turn. The approach to an obstacle. And the face of going ahead should always be open. We should try to have this really open approach and open the face of going ahead. This is a bigger arena, it's easy. If this is a smaller arena from the global tour, the global tour always has small arenas. But we can see even there, this arena is 30 meters wide and 80 7 meters long. We also have approaches which are open. So this is something what we have always to see when we are going to land, and at the end to build a course, that we have these good approaches to an obstacle we can pass. If we are in an indoor, it will become more difficult, but even then we have to find these lines, or to use these lines which allow us to give us the maximum space in order to approach and to go. 5-year-old horses outdoor and an outdoor show. So you can see long lines. We start here in the direction of the entrance, and we go here in a very long line, coming here out of this one, going again in the direction with the little Liverpool, turning around 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, double vertical, and then 9, 10, and finished. So at the end there's only one distance, 9 to 10, and the rest are all open distances, nice to canter around. Important is the approach. We have always long approaches to the obstacles. And of course we have long phases of filling. 6-year-old horses, you can see, you were asking before, 5, 6, 7-year-old horses. Oops, sorry. So, this one. This is a 5-minute change. Or even less. Building one more double in front of the last fence, having an extra distance added, and that. Here we have vertical, here we have also vertical. We have to make sure that we always work in the right angle. This is very important for us, because these angles are going to change our approach. If I have this here is always at the same position. But if I change the angle here, I've got longer 6 strides in the phase of going ahead, and my phase of approaching is getting shorter. If I have this one here, I just angle it a little bit more like this. So I have the 5 and the 3. And the ideal one would be the 4 and the 4. So always, maybe we have to move a little bit. We have to give a little bit angle to a fence. But these are small things, but we have to know that, and we have to do it at the end. And not to say, it's good enough for that. Leave it. Tom, you were asking about the gravity officers. So I just want to show some pictures about one track. Ground poles. Again, ground poles. Here we have some fillers inside. So here we have number 1, a little gauge, 2 poles and a plank, fillers. Here again we have always with the ground pole, the double, little gate, a little bit more massive, the number 6, the number 7 is with a little pole, a little oxer, why not? The number 8 also, maybe not 100% necessary to have a ground pole there, because we already have, but the gate very deep, but you can see the difference between number 8 and number 9. A gate is not always a gate. So if you have this little white gate inside, maybe we don't need 100% the ground pole, but it's nice if you bring it a little bit in front, then they just find better takeoff. And side line, definitely with a very open gate, it's very difficult to find the takeoff point for the horse. There it's nice to have a ground pole at this place. We have also at the combinations, once from the front, it looks like that the pole is exactly on the gate, but you can see here on the second picture, the pole is a little bit in front. You have to make sure, of course, that the pole stays on this position. And so you have to advise your jump route that they have to take care on that. Here the same, and number 12, and finished. But it's not only that we are going to have ground poles. Sometimes we also want to introduce something else to these horses. And, for example, water. I mean, and water is always a question. And when we were building this one, I have to say, I was also not very sure what is going to happen with these 5-year-old horses. And we had it was the last line, we came somewhere here, over this obstacle, and this one here is the last obstacle, also with water under it. So here we have the water to the side. And I said, well, we have to introduce it to them, we have to show it to them. And then when it was there, and when I put the Liverpool, I always put water in. The dry Liverpool, you also can throw the rain. If you have a Liverpool, you put water in. In the indoor, in the outdoor, it doesn't matter. So a Liverpool without water, you can also just put flags and the number. Yeah, because then you don't have any education. And I said, well, they come around the corner. I said, okay, I will put some flowers here, just in order, if they come around the corner and they look at the water. And here we leave it open. And I have to say, we had more or less no falls at this obstacle at all. So the horses were very brave. They learned a lot, I think, and in the last one they had to see the 2 round waters under the vertical. It was not a problem at all. So when we use something like that, we can use it also in the daily training with the pole in front. We can have it like the number, like it's number 12, nicely framed with grass if we have enough time, or simply with some bushes like this one. Okay, this is also a little bit more. Yeah? This is something not to be used in the young horse class, but in the youngster class. Very ugly gray wall. A little bit better to jump in. The same here. The number 7, very difficult. With the pole in front, it's getting better. Easier to take off, find the take-off point for the young horses. This picture you have seen before, and this was the ground which sheep jumped. So we could see even in the 4th and time class, because I said before the 4th and time class is not the ideal, because sometimes the riders are rushing quite a lot. We can see we were trying to get out this speed factor a bit. And it worked, I have to say, it worked quite well with these, in these class. Okay, What we can also do when we are on a show, maybe this is something close inspection with horses. I don't know if you do it, but this was a class for 5-year-old horses. So you can see that the riders had 10 minutes before, they were just showing around the horses. And, well, not having them look, they are not allowed to trot or to canter, they can only walk the horse. But I think this is a nice idea in order to introduce the horses a little bit to these new gates, and there's a shadow or whatever. So I think it helps. We were talking about youngsters. Youngsters over water for international competition. The youngsters should jump also an open water jump. It must be offered in a nice way, and often the complaint from our riders is that on many shows it is not offered at all. And then, let's say they have a 3.20 m open water. The stride, we say, the stride is 350, 370. So it's one stride. And yesterday, Rob said, well, it's often the question of health that they can stretch. And maybe he is right with that. I never thought about it, I have to say. But I think in general, our youngster horses at 7-8 years old, they should still be healthy and should be able to also stretch a little bit. And if you offer it in a good way, the presentation is in a good way, then I have no problems to offer it or also to put in some natural obstacles. And of course, for me, yes.
They say it's more difficult to jump the water or sand around, so what sort of fences material did you use to make the horses jump there, the water or sand?
So on the sand we have a special rule for the open water. This is, the rule says you have to ram to the water and it has to be rammed from the water. So that means that they are jumping from a higher position over the water. We have to dig in the water now by approximately 5 centimeters, and so we have a slope to the water. This is something what you have to make sure on sand. And then we have to see how bright the sand is. If it's a very bright sand, maybe you use the yellow tape and not the white one. So it's easier for them to see the landing tape. The water has to be colored. And the coloring of the water is also sometimes, some people are coloring the water with dye stuffs. I always try to avoid the dye stuffs because the dye stuffs are sinking down over the time. And then you have to stir it up again, and then they come out, and then they sink down again. If you do it with water-soluble color, white, blue, and green, then you have a nice, let's say, Atria blue, or Bahama blue, or whatever you want to name, in your water jump. But when you have just dye stuffs, they are sinking down and they are getting more or less black. So you don't have the blue color in anymore. They are always very happy. They come with a small little flask like this and say, oh, I have this, and that's what's this. Yeah, this is for the water jump. I said, this is not what we can use. Next week I'm in, I go to Abu Dhabi, and for sure they will come around the corner with this one. And I will put in my luggage some bottles of dye. at the youngster classes, well, this is a different question for what we have seen before. Triple combination, double combination, triple bar, turns, and on a small arena. So this is something what we ask for at this stage. The timeline speed is always 350 meters. We measure the normal way without touching. We allow gallop and encourage the horse to show the rider to show. We don't have too many related distances in these classes. We make no generous measuring, but we consider the age of the horse. So at the end, I would say we are building for the rider, for the horse, but we always want to have the rider present. And this is what we should do in all the courses. We should not build against the horses. We should build maybe against the rider. In this thinking. Maybe sometimes they are getting a little bit, what's this, how to do this, how can we deal with this, and so on. When we come to the top sport. Because otherwise we are not getting it. But when we are asking about the young horses and the young riders, we are also building for the horse and we are building for the rider.
What's a good way to start with young horses to go against speed? What sort of questions do you ask them?
To go against speed,
Yeah.
I try to, well, first of all these speed classes I would avoid. And then you have the possibility to test the ability of the horse when you are getting, let's say, in a two-phase competition into the second phase, because then you already have some rhythm. And if you go, I think it would not be so good if you start in a fourth time class and immediately start to rush. So my idea would be to go first into the two phases, or maybe then later on you are going into the jump off, and then you can figure out how good is your horse when you go against the clock. So I also would do step by step.
Is speed more difficult for the young horse or high turns or going not straight, rushing an angle?
Both is difficult for that. And it's not only difficult, it's also it takes a lot of pressure on the ankles, and so you have, let's say, more problems when you go with the speed. You know, most of the broken legs in the horse sport are in the race sport, and they are going straight, but they go in the speed. And this is the most of the pressure on the horse legs.
And to go to the World Championships, you have to go against the speed in 6-year or 7-year-olds.
Yes, this is a different world.
Yeah.
This is a different world. Last year I was at the World Championships, I was the technical delegate, and I have to say, this was proper jumping. And these horses, which were there, they were also not moving anymore like 6 years or 7 years. They were really fit to compete. And this is a tough week for them. And I think after this championships, you also have to give them a rest for a while. Other questions?
In Finland, we have very few professional riders. Our professional riders are abroad.
So the courses are must be more professional.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, because we build for 90% for real hobby competitors or medium level, and they should even take better care of it.
Yes. What are when you go to a small show, they are. It's always also in our federation, the thinking sometimes is difficult because when you go to top show. You have a top ground, you have a top rider, you have a top horse designer, everything is fine. When you go to the small show, you have a shit ground, you have a medium course designer, and you have the riders who cannot count 5 strides. At the end, I think we have to change a little bit our thinking. And also, from time to time, the best educated have to go to these shows. And I don't know, I think we have 600 people on our course designer list in Germany. So we should find at least 1 or 2 who can build in their region at least some shows. And or if they don't build themselves, they even can advise the other ones to do it. This is what we do. Often we take younger course designers with us, and then it's their show, and we are just sit and wait that nothing goes wrong. And this is normally a good way how to do it. We have now in Nuorten is building a new facility in Wiesenbeck, and we are going to run course designer education there from March next year. It will be let's say the standard education from the FEI courses, but these are not the main courses. Our main focus is on courses which we do there in combination with a show. That means course designers which we want to come there in order to improve and to get better. Then they can build immediately on the weekend at the first place the show. We know it cannot be, not all of them can build it, but we will pick out the best ones. And they will also get proof for that. So I think this might be interesting for course designers coming from different parts of the world in order to have immediately access, and then we can say, okay, we also have to say to some of them, sorry, we like you, but your course maybe was not so top that we are going to present today here in the indoor. The indoor is very big, it's almost by now, it's 40 by 80, just the riding arena, and this has a nice size. Okay. Well, I was told I have 2 hours. I have a couple of minutes left for some questions.
Yes, please. One question about young horses. We do have actually some championships also, and I think it's a bit odd when all the classes for the 5 and 6 years old are not against the block. I mean, it's okay for them. But then suddenly we got into the championships, and then the best one has to run against the block.
I didn't say it's not allowed, or I just said for the young ones it's better to start with the other ones, or with the other classes, and then later on you can get the speed over when you go to a jump off, when you go to a two-phase class, and you start after number 7 number 13 to speed up. And the two-phase classes and the jump-off class is already a table A. That means it is against the clock. But the only thing which I showed you was the fault in time.
Sure, the problem is only the championships.
Yeah.
Because then you have to go, you have the first round clear, so then you want to get the winner. I mean, you can't have a champion, you have 4 or 5 horses.
Yeah. No, for the championships, of course, you will have the last class will be the jump-off class. Yeah. So the horses have to learn that, of course, before. And in your daily training, sometimes you also train these kinds of terms. The only thing sometimes is that we want to avoid these wild riders, because if you give the riders a chance to go quite fast and to go in sharp turns, they will use it.
Three things. Number one is that all your courses, except of the last one for 7 years, left fence number 1 in total piece and then starting the lines and turns. Do you prefer that for young horses and not starting with a related?
If the related distance is long enough, then I also start with a 1 and 2 in a related line. But I have approximately 7 strikes in between. This is just in order for the rhythm, for the rebalance. Jump number 1. We know exactly the riders will ride these 7 strikes, maybe with 8, and so it's no problem. So we have these 2 options. We can start straight, we can start out of the turn, we can start in the line. We have a lot of options, and sometimes it just depends. And maybe I picked some courses which started with a single one.
Not 20 meters and for medium ride.
Yeah.
Second question, the international course design is going to make more airy, spacey, less solid fences. But does that go also for young horses, or should they learn jump well on a little bit more compared?
Well, what we see is sometimes, I have to say, when I go for example to a championship, what the lady was just mentioning, I have, for the young horses, sometimes I have a push officer inside, or for the championship, for sure I have a push officer inside. Because there, then we can already see who will be in the lead afterwards, because many of them, they just clap on the hind rail, and for the young horses, I think a little push officer is a nice experience to jump. It's not a problem at all, but you can already divide. And then you see, okay, here, from this distance, then maybe they have a fault, or the concentration is gone, whatever. So, this is, the area building is nice, but first of all, we also have to, it should not be too solid that they cannot look through. So I had one Russian course designer with me. He was building a wall, and he was building a blank over the wall and a pole over. So this was definitely too much, even for the more experienced horses. They were looking a lot into this thing. If you have this in a young horse class, you create a lot of stops. So the horse should look through, but it should not be too airy. Like this bicycle or fence or whatever is available.
The third question, Rob Ellis almost promised to take us on board for a trainers program, almost. Could we join the Bear about course design? Your program?
Well, this program is on a, of course, everybody can come. This is not a problem at all. We are at the moment, we are fixing the dates in order to find, we also want to have Ludger at this time there. We don't want to make a Ludger Beerbaum, let's say, academy without Ludger Beerbaum. And so now we are going to figure out the dates when it is possible, when it is in our schedules. And then it will be published, I think we will finish this till the end of the year. So the first course, which is an FEI course, we are going to run in March, I think 9 to 15. This is the first one, and then we have the second one, which will be in November. But in between, we are going to run the other courses. And if you go to his website or to my website, And then you will see, then you can see the dates. So here you can see here, you go here, www.hevosten.com. There is on the first page, there is a button, Riesenbeck International. Riesenbeck is the place where Luca is based. And you click on the button and then you get all the details about the dates. But this is just, we want to finalize till end of, or till mid of December, and then you can see also when the dates are.
You said that horse sport is spreading all over the world, like it is. At what level are the World Cups jumped in these less known countries like India? Maybe it isn't having World Cup yet. But at what sort of level?
Yeah, not so bad. When I was the first time in China, they said, well, we have to warm up. And so I was really warm up, and then I was just sitting on the tribune and watching the riders, because I was new. It's very difficult when you are new. You have riders which you don't know, you have horses which you don't know how the ground is functioning. And I was really surprised. But the reason is very simple. When you go to a show in Germany and you are sitting there on the Bundesliga Championat, and right of you is Paul Schockenmüller sitting, and left of you is Rob Aaron sitting, and then you come the next week to China and you turn around and you see the two persons again sitting there, so no wonder that they also have a proper education. And the World Cups there are are 1:45. So it's not like our World Cups here in Europe, but it already starts in other leagues. It's not a typical Chinese size. We have special World Cup rules, and so it's a little bit. I have to say I'm not so happy with it. It says the ground is 1:45, but you must have two fences 1:60. Which is a world in between. You know, it has, these two fences have nothing to do with the rest of the course. So what you do? Sometimes you have. I had one lady. She was a judge, and she was really difficult to work with. And so I was building a street house, and she always came with me. We would say, yeah, you have to do this, and you have to invite me for the course book. I said, where is it written? And she couldn't find it because it's nowhere written. And then she said, but tomorrow there must be 2 obstacles 1:60. I was thinking what to do with these 1:60, but it was not in China, it was in Eastern Europe. But it was difficult enough for them. So I had one nice fence, it had a big plank, and then I put 3 poles in, so it was a very massive obstacle. And I have to say they jumped it well. And we came out of a distance, so it was nice, it's right. And so I walked with the course. And she was only interested, where is the other one? And we came to the Swedish officer. And so he was the Swedish officer. One wing was here, one wing was there, so I went to the ring. I said, no, she said you have to measure in the middle, and it was only 1:40. And I said, where it's written. And this is, but this is also not written. So sometimes you have to be a little bit creative, but sometimes it's also difficult. Yeah? If you have colleagues, it does not happen so often. But sometimes you can you have to find a way how you deal with the sport and being in the rules. Yeah. So you have to find a solution.
It was interesting to hear about the multitasking. The course design has a very big responsibility, not only for the horses and riders, but also for competition and the organizer. So it's really multitasking we have to do these days, also as a course designer.
May I ask about this two-round special, because it sounded really interesting. How long has it been there, and is there any experience? I mean, especially when you were saying about not getting a chance to run against time, then this would give you, even the young horses, if everything was well, then you could then
This is a rule change which we have about 2-3 years already. But not everybody from the organizers is looking into the rule book. Often it's a little bit like this copy and paste. It worked well last year, we do it this year the same way. And then we have, maybe then sometimes you miss a development. But we have this since, I think, 2-3 years. And we have done it in the Sunshine Tour also before, because there was no rule at this time. And we always called it a two-phase special, and everybody knew what we wanted. So the riders are coming and say, even if I have a time for it, I can continue? Yes. And then they continue. The only thing is you can build only 13 fences. This is the difference between two phases and this kind of two phases. But this is just a...
We don't have this in Finnish rules, and I've asked, can't we have it? And they just explained that we have so small areas here that we can't have certain different fences, so it needs a big area that we can build.
And you can jump it twice. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
From the other side, you take two obstacles
Yeah,
from
but
the other side.
yeah, but
or
then you need somebody to fix it.
Yes, of course. But let's say if you have a 60 by 30, you can easily build 13 fences without jumping twice.
Last year I tried to get it in our rules. It hasn't been there yet.
Or you have to, it depends also a little bit on the obstacle material which you have. If you have a small ring and you have 5-meter poles, and then the wings are also a meter wide, I can tell you that it's getting difficult. But if you have a good saw, then sometimes it helps. So, but these are normally things which are easy to solve, and well, shouldn't be a problem.
Our rules allow you to build like 10 to 12 fences depending on what height. But as it goes to the show, you always get 8, and if you have 2 fences, you get 8 plus 4, or when they are really considering the riders, then it might be 8 and 5. So it's always on the lower limit, and that's the explanation is always that we have it to be fast.
Rules should allow development, and sometimes fast development. It's not even for the General Assembly, because the stand can be changed by your committee. So before we have...
Okay, but when I give you examples and so on, I always predict a little bit that we have some things in order, and one thing is that we have fence material which is not out of the 19th century anymore. When I came the first time to Ukraine, I had square poles, so they were like that, and not rolling in the cups and homemade cups, they were like this. So you had the chance that they, when they jumped in, the whole thing was falling with the horse and the rider, or they were clear out. Okay, thank you very much. If you have no further questions, thank you very much. I hope you liked it, and so you can come to one of these seminars.